We had a bomb scare. The police had to search the school for bombs. And all of this because the children had been praying outside.
Was it a conscious decision? Why was it a conscious decision? And can we call it a prayer ban as straightforward as that?
Well, prayer rituals. So obviously people can pray in their head. Um, we've never had a prayer room at Michaela, and that's just because of the restrictive building and our ethos of silent corridors and bags in the classrooms and children not being able to sort of roam around the school as they like. In lots of schools, children roam around the school. And so I can see that people think, well, if it's just their free time, why shouldn't they do whatever they want to do? But that just doesn't happen here at Michaela. We have a very particular kind of ethos, which is, of course, why I'm known as the strictest headmistress in Britain and so on. And so, given our restrictive building, which isn't actually a school building, it's 7 floors. It's really like an office block. We've never had a prayer room, and we've always made that clear to families when they join. And while they might prefer a prayer room, in the end, families weigh up. Some people like silent corridors. Some people like the family lunch that we do. Obviously you might not like everything about a school, but you weigh it up and you decide, well, yeah, I'll take it despite the fact that it doesn't tick all the boxes.
But do you have a philosophical objection to a prayer? I mean, if say you had an unlimited campus with unlimited rooms available, would you have a prayer room in those circumstances?
Well, if we had a different ethos as well, then obviously not. I mean, in fact, we did allow prayer in the yard. So we clearly weren't against prayer because we allowed it in the yard. But then last year, for the first time in 8 years, for 8 years, the children never prayed, but a few children did. And this then accumulated over days and ended up with a campaign online where we were then threatened with death and horrible racism that one of my Black teachers was subjected to.
From whom? From a family member?
No. From people on the outside calling her a monkey, the C word, the N word, over and over. Real horrible racist abuse and death threats. We had a bomb scare. The police had to search the school for bombs. And all of this because the children had been praying outside. And I say that because I suppose people must have seen from outside in the gates. I don't know. Our own internal community here is a very happy one normally. But the other thing that we noticed when the prayer happened was that it was during Ramadan. So we have Muslim children who do not want to fast during Ramadan, do not necessarily wear a hijab, for instance, do not want to pray. And they were then being intimidated by the more committed Muslims who would say, no, you're not allowed to eat. And they would go to the break hall food table and stop them from eating. One girl dropped out of the choir, for instance, because music was seen to be haram. One girl started wearing a hijab when she hadn't before. Various other children, as I say, with regard to the fasting and the praying, there were issues around this. And so it's my job as headmistress both to protect the staff who were being abused and to protect the children and make sure that they are in a safe environment where they can feel able to be who they are, whether that is, and in this case, these are the Muslim children, some of the Muslim children are not able to do.
So I guess the question is, if this prayer had taken place and there wasn't this desire to proselytize, this desire to sort of convert people to more committed practices, would you have been okay with that? That if it had just gone on in the yard at lunchtime, you'd have been fine with that?
Yes, absolutely. But the problem was people from the outside can see the yard. And so the people who were threatening us and so on aren't from our internal community. They're people from the outside. And so having it in the yard, we then realized at that point, oh my goodness, we're then open to the view of anyone out there. So it would have to happen inside. And just also this idea of a prayer room, we've got 350 Muslim children. We would have to have several prayer rooms. So this idea of one prayer room doesn't work. And given our family lunch, we have a very specific ethos and way of doing things. And all of the teachers are with the children eating during family lunch. So in order to make prayer rooms happen, we would have to abandon our silent corridors. We'd have to abandon our family lunch. We would have to abandon having bags in the classrooms, and the kids would have to carry their bags and coats around with them. all of the stuff that makes Michaela Michaela would not be able to exist in conjunction with allowing the children to free roamly in order to access various rooms over lunchtime.
Do you think?
So,
Do you have a philosophical preference here, Catherine, to secularism being preferable to religion? The school being very secular, is that an advantage? Is it better to be a secular school than, for example, to be a faith school? In your view, are there educational advantages inherent in secularism?
no, I don't think so. I don't have a problem with faith schools. In fact, I think head teachers should run their schools as they see fit,
Yeah.
and like, I think I should run my school as I see fit. Um, the fact is, though, that if you have a multicultural, multi-faith, cohort of kids, you've got to make sure that you are supporting all of the faiths and you are encouraging them to make friends across racial and religious divides. If we want multiculturalism to work, that needs to be actively promoted. And that is something that we do at Makeda. Now, obviously, in a faith school, you've got a monocultural situation there, which is very different. If you look at the top 20 Progress 8 schools, the ones who have done the best in terms of Progress 8, you will find many of them are faith schools. So I do think there is an advantage to monoculturalism. When you have a multicultural community, I am a descendant of a very multicultural family. You need to actively encourage the children to cross those racial and religious divides. And it's one of the reasons I would say, because we actively do that, why our children are friends with each other across those divides. And that's very important to me. I do not want to divide children according to race and religion. And because of our building, the restrictions of the building, because of our ethos, I would necessarily have to divide them. So I'd have to send all the Muslim kids upstairs and I'd have to send all the non-Muslim kids downstairs. I don't want that. When we first started in 2014, we served meat, as any school would do. And we asked the kids, because they all eat the same food. That's what we do at family lunch. And we asked the kids, what do you eat? Meat with no pork, meat with no beef, etc. Hindu, Muslim, divide. And when we placed them out in the lunch hall, we saw that everyone was divided according to race and religion. And there was no way that I was going to reside over that. And so we went vegetarian. And so that's an odd thing, us being a vegetarian school, but we've done that deliberately so that children can mix with each other. And that is because of our strict ethos, because of our systems and structures. And it's hard to imagine. People think, but it's only a few minutes. But it just can't work here. If you came to see here, all of us, the staff at the school, we all get it. We all see why that doesn't work because we work here. So we know what our school is like. And the question is it okay for Michaela to be the school that we are? And there are lots of people who don't like us. They don't like our silent corridors. They don't like our strict ways. And I get that. But they don't have to send their children here. In 2014, 30% of our children were Muslim. We have since grown that to 50% of our families being Muslim. The Muslim families buy into what we do. Now, it may be that they would prefer a prayer room, but in the end, they weigh it up and they say, you know what, we'd rather this than not have this. So
I understand. It's a very clear articulation of the position. Before you go, are you worried about your safety, your own safety, on the back of this, of the social media backlash, the court case? Are you concerned about your safety?
Yes, absolutely. And it is the case that we had a media ban. We fought for it to remain in court. I was desperate to keep that media ban, which would have meant that I wouldn't be doing any of these interviews. But we have been sadly thrown into the limelight because the judge abolished that ban. And I sort of get it. He's weighing up my interests against the public interests. And he's saying the public are interested in this story and they should hear about it. And so I get it. I just wish I weren't in the firing line. I'm out here defending what we do now because I have to, because the media ban was lifted.
And you're worried that someone might, you're worried about violence. That's on your mind to a certain extent.
Well, certainly last year when the whole thing kicked off, we had several death threats and it was extremely worrying. Staff of mine and I had to take lifts into school. I couldn't go out in the usual way with friends to the theater and that kind of thing. I don't know what will happen this time. I'm hopeful that we will remain safe, but you just never know, I suppose.
Katharine, good to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.